My name's Talia Borofsky. I'm coming here from Princeton, where I'm advised by Simon Levin and Daniel Rubenstein, and I'm going to talk to you about cooperative hunting and competition for prey and how it might shape group formation. So I'm going to start off with a working definition of cooperative hunting. I define it as predators hunting prey in groups and sharing what they kill. And so this highlights a trade-off that they might have more access to big prey by hunting in groups, but they have to share. There's a lot of diversity in cooperative hunters. Some examples include Harris hawks, spiders, believe it or not. This could be dolphins or killer whales, wolves, hyenas, and ants, such as army ants. And this is just naming a few examples. There's many more. And something that's increasingly being recognized is that some of these social predators play very vital ecological roles. So there's some really well-documented examples in wolves. For instance, in Isle Royale National Park, they looked at the tree rings, and you could see that when there were few wolves or no wolves, you had moose growing out of control, and that led to less tree growth. But when you had more wolves, that controlled the moose population through just deaths and fear, and that allowed more growth in the trees. And so a vital question is how cooperative hunting feeds back on ecology, and both directions of the arrows are important. But until now, those arrows have been studied pretty separately. So on one hand, you have those studying how ecology leads to group hunting and leads to group formation. And on the other direction, it's how group hunting shapes ecology. So from the first direction, there's a few studies, but I want to highlight this one from 1986 by Clark and Mangle. It's a really elegant model. They were trying to understand why predators are often in groups much bigger than the group size, which is optimal for hunting prey. And they explained that if individuals are deciding whether to be alone or join a group, they should keep joining unless the fitness in the group is less than the fitness of being alone. And that results in groups growing much larger than what is optimal. In the reverse direction, I want to highlight these studies from Frigzel et al. In 2007 and more recently in 2022. I think 2007 should be 2017. Okay, anyways. They assumed cooperative hunting provides no benefit in capturing prey, which is a pretty apt assumption for what they were focusing on, which is lions hunting zebras and wildebeests. And they found that due to sharing, cooperation decreased predation pressure on prey. And it led to, they attributed it to more stability and more coexistence between predators and prey and higher prey populations. But would that change if cooperative hunting increases the kill rate of certain types of prey? That's to be determined. And so my questions are, 1, does large prey select for predator hunting groups? 2, how big will the groups be? And 3, the more complicated question of how does cooperative hunting and group fission fusion affect coexistence between big prey and small prey types? And so I address this using a model that combines ecological and behavioral dynamic frameworks. Sorry, on the left side, you see the predator-prey model. I have predators with population density P hunting 2 types of prey: big prey that's best caught in groups, and small prey that's best caught alone. So big prey has scaled population density N1, and small prey has scaled population density N2. And on the right side that I'm combining it with is a dynamic group size distribution. And so G of X is the density of groups of size X. And I look at how that changes over time. And I want to note that here I'm showing you all my non-dimensionalized parameters and variables, except for group size. Yeah. So really essential to how the group dynamics is dynamic and how it's related to the predator-prey model is the individuals deciding whether to join or leave. And so they join a group of size X if that increases their fitness. So they're joining a group of size X if their fitness in being a group of size X plus 1, W of X plus 1, is greater than the fitness of being alone. On the reverse, they're leaving if being alone is better than being in a group of size X. So how I approach such a complex model is I'm breaking it down into 4 parts. First, the more behavioral ecology part of individual decisions and when they should join groups, when they shouldn't. Then bringing in group dynamics without population dynamics. Then looking at population dynamics separately if predators are in all groups of the same size. And finally, bringing it all together, population and group dynamics together. So a fundamental ingredient connecting all 4 stages is the functional response of a group, and I've already alluded to it. Functional response, for those not in theoretical ecology, is the kill rate, the rate at which they kill prey. And so functional response gives you the fitness, which gives you the decision that they're making. And to bring in the cooperation here, I bring it into the capture probability, which I assume is sigmoidal for big prey based on previous data on wild dogs and some on wolves. So alpha 1 of x is the capture probability of big prey, and it is sigmoidal with this, and S1 is the critical group size, which is the group size at which the capture probability is 1/2. So you see that once you exceed that critical group size, things saturate pretty quickly, especially if the critical group size is low. And I set this other parameter. If you're familiar with sigmoidal functions, you know there's another like steepness parameter, but I set that so that all of them start at the same point when x equals 1. And then if you put that into the per capita kill rate, so here I'm showing you for the kill rate being a type 1 functional response, so linear. And looking at the per capita kill rate, so dividing by group size x, you end up with this maximum per capita kill rate at x equals 3. So pretty low group sizes. But still, based on what Clark and Mangle said, that shouldn't prevent larger groups from forming. And I also am looking at type 2 functional responses. So for that, I take the handling time and split it into a group size independent portion and a group dependent portion that's divided by x. That's like the consumption time. And I mean, for the results that I'm showing you, I'm setting the group independent portion to 0 and having the group dependent portion be the main part of the handling time. And then on the bottom, if you care, is the full type 2 functional response. Then bringing the functional responses together into the fitness, fitness is the weighted sum of the functional responses to big prey and small prey, F1 big prey, F2 small prey. They're weighted by the benefits to predators. This is like the conversion from prey to predator, so beta 1 and beta 2. And it's divided by x because they're sharing equally. And so here, because big prey is big, beta 1 is greater than beta 2. And finally, to help make sense of the system and all the parameters and to bring in really like well-studied results from scaling and from allometric scaling, we use allometric scaling to simplify the number of parameters. So the mass ratio of big prey to small prey helps you find the rate of handling times and encounter rates, helps you find the ratio of the benefits of big prey to small prey, which I also call the scale, and helps you find small prey population growth and big prey population growth. So the bigger big prey is, the smaller its population growth, especially relative to small prey. Okay, so now going to individual decisions. The main result here I want to show you is that groups form if big prey is available and big enough. So in this plot on the right-hand side, the bottom axis is the benefit of big prey, beta 1. Small prey is beta 2, so that's also beta 1 versus beta 2. And the y-axis is the scaled big prey density N1. And the curves show the cutoffs at which you'll form a group of a certain size, or you'll want to be in a group of a certain size. So you're comparing between being alone versus being in that group here. So black and blue overlap. That's the cutoffs for being groups of size 2 and groups of size 3. And that has to do with group of size 2, you have a 1/2 capture probability. And even though you're not sharing as much, you're also not getting that much benefit of being in cooperating versus group of size 3. And so in this model, in our model, you have to pass through the different phases. Like you have to have groups of size 2 in order to get groups of size 3, etc. And what I don't show here is that if you shift that critical group size, the group size at which the capture probability is 1/2, if you shift it to the right, then it's harder and harder to form groups of size 2, which means you're less likely to form groups of size 3, etc. So now moving to the group dynamics with individual decisions. So we have dynamics of the group size distribution, so the change of g of x versus time. So groups increase from joining, and they decrease from one individual at a time dispersing. Bringing in the equations, joining is the rate at which individuals encounter groups, the rate at which groups of size x transition to groups of size x plus 1 is the rate at which individuals encounter groups of size x, and then the probability at which they decide to join, which is s of x plus 1, 1. Dispersing, on the other hand, is the number of individuals in that group times the density of groups of that size times the probability they leave. So that highlights to you that it's easier for individuals to disperse than for groups to grow from joining if you don't have a lot of solitary individuals in the population. And then the best response function here, those probability functions, are really sigmoidal functions. So the probability you join a group of size x is you're comparing the fitness of being in x plus 1 to fitness of being in 1, and it should be 1/2 when those fitnesses are the same. It should be 1 when joining results in a higher fitness, and it should be really close to 0 when joining results in a lower fitness. And the reverse for the decision of leaving. And then here are some results I want to show you. So here on the left-hand side, so here I'm showing the results at equilibrium on the left-hand side. And so I'm showing you the densities of groups of various sizes indicated by colors. And the x-axis is the mass ratio or scale of beta 1 to beta 2 of big prey to small prey. And so what you see is that as that scale increases, this number of solitary individuals goes really close to 0. They disappear from the population, and groups start to form. At first, you have more groups of size 3, and then groups of size 4 become more and more apparent. But on the right-hand side, I think is really interesting. The y-axis is group size. The x-axis is beta 1 over beta 2, the mass ratio of big prey to small prey. And blue is what Mangle and Clark predicted. It's what they think should be the equilibrium group size. It's the group size at which going any larger makes the fitness smaller than being alone. And you see that it gets really large. So as big prey is bigger, you end up with groups of size 10 eventually. But then what actually happens is closer to what maximizes the per capita fitness. So turquoise is what maximizes per capita fitness. Black is the mean experience group size, and pink is just the most frequent group size that we observe. And you see that that's really small. It's 3 or 4, mostly. So next, moving to population dynamics. Here we have predator and prey. Predators are in groups of size X, and all groups are the same size. So highlighting again that we're using this allometric scaling, eta 2, eta 1, are growths of small prey versus big prey. And so here's the result of looking at the equilibria and their stability. So top plot is predator density, P, versus group size. Left plot is big prey density versus group size. Bottom right plot is small prey density versus group size. And what we see is group size doesn't benefit predator population size. It's a pretty nonlinear curve. Versus what happens with big prey is actually more complicated. Like you would expect that if they're better at catching big prey, then the more they're in groups, the fewer big prey there are, but that's not really what happens. In fact, as group size gets large, once it's large enough, increasing group size helps big prey. And we attribute this effect to sharing. Sharing just is such a strong force that it overcomes the benefit to capture probability. And finally, bringing it all together into population and group dynamics. So we discussed already the joining and leaving decisions, and that happens at a behavioral timescale, fast timescale. And then at a slower timescale is the population timescale. So now groups can also grow from birth and death. And so first result is that groups form, but they don't grow big. Like when you have big prey that's big enough and available, groups do form. So increasing benefit of big prey relative to small prey increases the mean experience group size if there's a type 2 functional response. But the group size stays small. It doesn't exceed 3. And then this is like, I thought a very exciting result that I especially wanted to highlight to you guys. So the left axis shows the effect of big prey on small prey. And the right axis shows the effect of small prey on big prey. So effect of big prey on small prey is blue. Small prey on big prey is red. And what you see is that for certain regions of the benefit of big prey relative to small prey, this area, you see it's switching from apparent competition to apparent facilitation. So having more big prey helps the small prey population. And the reason that's especially surprising is going back to the population dynamics model without any group dynamics, there was always apparent competition. For all parameter values, there's always apparent competition in both directions between big prey and small prey. And then at the same time, it's also interesting to look at the group size distribution. So when I did the group size distribution, I was hoping to show that in general, using one group size for all predator groups would be a pretty good approximation, because actually the group size distribution would be unimodal, kind of normal, and so that's a good approximation. But what we found is that it's in different ways that it's not a very good approximation, because in certain pretty plausible parameter regions and pretty like significantly sized ones, you see a bimodal distribution. And then in other times it switches to unimodal. So in this graph, just to explain it more, the y-axis is group size, x-axis is the size of beta 1 versus beta 2, the benefit of beta 1 versus beta 2, and the colors indicate the probability of being in a group of size x. So the more red, the more probable, the higher the probability. So now in summary, does large prey select for groups, predator hunting groups? Yes, they do form, but they're not big. The mean experience group size is around 3 when we bring population dynamics in. Without population dynamics, you get up to 4 once you have really extreme ratios of big prey benefit to small prey benefit. So that leaves the big question of why are they not that big? Because actual predator hunting groups like wild dogs groups are pretty big. They're like, I forget, 30 individuals. I'm a theorist. Wolf hunting groups can be 30, especially in areas where they have bison available, big prey. So lions are definitely living in larger than groups of size 3. So why are they not that big in this model? The cost of sharing is pretty big. Then there's the low population growth of big prey. That also limits things. But even then, when you look at the fitnesses, they should still be like, based on Clark and Mangel's predictions, they should still be forming larger groups. So I attribute it to the low encounter rate with solitary individuals. As you increase the benefit of big prey, solitary individuals disappear because they get siphoned up off into pairs and groups of 3. And there's very few solitary individuals left, so the rate at which you're forming larger groups is just too low for it to like increase the mean experience group size. And I think the apparent competition result has pretty big implications for conservation, because carnivore livestock conflict is a very big issue. Because every time that carnivores such as wolves attack livestock, people want to kill them and try to kill them, and that threatens the populations enormously. And so this result indicates that if you increase wild prey, that is, say, big and selects for them to be in larger groups or is at least difficult to catch, they might be less likely to hunt livestock populations. Because livestock, even if they are big or small, they are much easier to catch often. So more wild prey, more attacking wild prey rather than livestock. And so here are my advisors and collaborators. Some of them are in this audience, and I'd like to thank my funding. Thank you. Do we have time?
Yeah, we have time for a question, but Lula, can you come up and do the question, Bob.
Okay.
Was it me? Yeah. So it's really interesting talk, and it sort of seems, if I understand it right, an example where selection produces a group size that's kind of bigger than optimal, or it may do, for for group productivity. But is it also the case that if individuals have to form groups stand, then the population is also more vulnerable to extinction because of that kind of alley effect? You know, smaller, sparser populations harder.
That-
Can you relate this to extinction probability for predators?
So so you're like the alley effect that you're mentioning would be like a population level alley effect, which would lead to extinction. And what I didn't mention is there's been a bunch of mathematical explorations of a population level alley effect being cooperation, but actually they're only like cooperating within their groups. And there's been some excellent models by Lurch and Abbott. I think Karen Abbott is here, showing that population level alley effects are pretty rare and often don't emerge, but you can have group level alley effects. So I'm not sure if cooperation leads to more extinction. Here it helps prey, which helps the predators at least persist, perhaps. Yeah.